Today, we're talking about human connection, the connection between you and me, the ability to make new friends and new allies and new coworkers and colleagues out of people that just show up on a screen or people that you get introduced to, about the power of joining forces with others and how it can affect and grow your business. And we're doing today's conversation. It's kind of cool. We're going to talk about a tried and true, timeless way to join forces with other business people through Masterminds with Sharon Ringier, and she's an expert on this topic. So we'll learn from her about how Masterminds can be a game changer for your business. And then we'll go to something that's screaming brand new, using artificial intelligence to match people based on their personality traits and outlook on life to find out who your growth partners are and who your kindred spirits are. Both of them can help you get closer to someone that maybe you've never met. We're using the software inside the Idea Collective. I think it's pretty cool. We'll talk to Jeremy Foyet about that later on in the show. This is Small Business Rally Point. I am your host and founder of the Idea Collective, Pat Miller, the Idea Coach. Now, if you're new around these parts, the Idea Collective is a community made up of small business owners who have decided small business doesn't have to be so hard. We should work together. We should help one another, and we should be able to show up as we are every single day, lend a hand when we can, ask for help when we need it, and grow our dreams together. If you want to know more about the Idea Collective, I'd be happy to fill you in. We'll have a 15-minute one-on-one, and you'll learn what is building into 9 different states and 4 different countries, and eventually the retreat. So we'll get into all that later. Today's show, of course, is sponsored by Bank 59, Quick Trip, and Serendipity Labs. But I'm excited to get to our first guest today to talk about Masterminds because the programs are amazing. And I just met Sharon Ringier recently, and every time I talk to her, I get excited because she's just, well, you'll see, right? She's a women's empowerment business strategist and the founder of the I'm Possible Women's Empowerment Collaborative. Sharon, it is so great to see you again. How are you today?
I am doing fantastic, and thanks for having me today. I'm excited.
It's my pleasure. It's good to see you. And we're talking about Masterminds. And I know you're going to show us a really great looking PowerPoint to teach us about Masterminds. But before we get into Masterminds, I want to back up and talk a little bit about the I'm Possible Women's Empowerment Collaborative. I started the show talking about getting people together and how powerful it can be. Obviously, I can't comment on this. How powerful is that sense of community for women entrepreneurs?
Well, I always say that, men do business in the boardroom, corporate America do business in the boardroom and on the golf course. And unfortunately, as female entrepreneurs, we don't have that luxury because we are technically nurturers. That's what we've been labeled, nurturers. We take care of everyone and we love on people. Sometimes we talk too much, but it's like we have a different dynamic with how we are done, how we are bred, right? So for females to have a tribe that they can trust and confide in from a business perspective, it was a game changer for me. So that's how this all even got started, was just, pulling together a few women, saying, hey, let's just map out some of the pressing issues that we have. And it was nice to have my own personal advisory board when I wanted to do, basically kind of talk about what was going on and what was happening in my business, because I'm going to be honest, talking to my husband was like talking to the banner behind your head. Like that banner is not it's not going to move. The banner actually says more. I understand the banner. So my husband, not being an entrepreneur, he's very blue collar, and now he's retired, and it's like, hey, he just didn't get it. So, and unfortunately for someone that is not a creative, it's hard to understand that mindset. So it was just great to have women that actually understood what I was going through and was working with me as well to, and we were helping each other.
And it's one thing to have friends. It's another thing to have maybe some business contacts.
Yes.
It's a whole different thing to have this personal board of advisors around you. And I know you've got a great looking PowerPoint to walk us through the power of Masterminds. And I want to encourage everyone, if you've got questions during Sharon's presentation, put it in the chat because I'm going to jump in and interrupt her with questions, comments, and sarcastic remarks. And I hope you'll do the same. But with that, Sharon, take the floor, do your thing, and we look forward to learning about Masterminds.
Okay, let's see if I can do this really quick. Show my screen. Can you all see it?
Yep, it looks great.
Okay, awesome. So this is about the power of mastermind. This is actually one of our masterminds groups going on right here. But I'd like to start by even talking about, I love Yogi Berra's, I mean, I'm not a big sports person, but when I find a good quote, I don't care where they come from. And he says, if you don't know where you're going, then you'll end up someplace else. And I mean, how many of you agree that that is the case when you're looking to start a business? You just don't know where you're going, or you don't, even if you're in it and you're in the trenches of it, sometimes don't have an idea of what the next step may be. And with that being said, it's like you end up someplace that you maybe didn't intend to go. So one of the things that I really like to encourage people is to understand the dynamics behind business first. And I found this statistic to be very interesting because they talked about how 20% of small businesses fail within the first year. And by the fifth year, roughly 50% have faltered. And after 10 years, around a third have survived. After listening to Darren Hardy this morning, though, I actually have some new stats for you. And he's saying that 90% of big box businesses are expected to merge because of what's going on in the world right now. And then 16 out of 17 small businesses are slated to be out of business in 3 years. So with all that, it's 66, he's saying 66% will fail within the first 3 years, 96 will fail within the first 10 years, and that 4% that's going to be left is going to be struggling to stay alive. And when I hear those stats, it's like, I don't want to be in that world of trying to figure it out so much so that I'm going to fail. And so I then looked at what is it that causes businesses to fail. And these are like the top 20 reasons that cause, especially startups, to fail in their business. And even with everything happening with, the C word, COVID, it has touched all of this as well because of what's, we just don't have a choice with people losing jobs and everything like that. So, but the number one thing that I noticed was no market need. And that's so hard for an entrepreneur to try to figure out. How do you understand the market need, and how do you test it? How do you figure things out? So I love that, we can look at all the stages of what's going on in business to figure out, how we can take it from, point A to point Z. But we need to understand where we are in that process in order to be able to know how to get the help to keep us from falling into the trap of becoming a statistic. So I like to explain that, as an explorer, it's great. You're bringing something out, you're figuring it out. But what you want to make sure that you're doing in the process of figuring out is, again, having someone or a tribe. I always call the ladies my tribe, having a tribe that you can bounce ideas off of, because at the end of the day, they are the ones that have been there, or, been there, done that kind of thing. So you want to always have someone that can help you bounce ideas off of. The same with being a creator. You're working it out. You're getting all the glitches taken care of. And at the same time, again, having that mastermind in there in the trenches with you. And of course, the innovator who's rocking it out. And the reason why I love having the innovator, the one that's even seasoned in the tribe as well, is because guess what? As soon as they figure out one thing, they're going to be back to explorer mode to bring in a new process. And all of that said, they are learning and kind of massaging how, what it is that they need to do to move forward. So, and one of my little things didn't work, sorry. So I was listening to Darren, and he was talking about there's 3 distinctive advantages that help you significantly stand out when you're trying to build your businesses. And one is to get good counsel. So that's getting the coaching, signing up for workshops, things like that. Having a community is huge. And then, of course, having a strategy or a course of action. And that course of action is where, whether it's, I always say take imperfect massive action, just take action. Because if you're staying stagnant, you aren't going to move forward. So that's when you get intentional about setting goals and creating a strategy. And that's where my favorite part, the mastermind, comes in. So according to an article with Inc.com, every business should join a mastermind, and that research studies indicate a group can help develop and operationalize ideas in a quicker fashion than working alone. For me, I find it so rewarding to be able to leverage the knowledge of other people, because at the end of the day, all the college degrees, all the experience that we get will never, ever be enough. We need to learn how to work with others in order to capitalize on their knowledge, because that's how you grow. So why are masterminds the number one toolkit for every entrepreneur, and what its benefits? It is unmatched and invaluable opportunities. I can't begin to tell you how many women I have collaborated with on different projects, and have even taken my business a lot further along by just sitting with them and brainstorming, because that's what really a mastermind is. It's brainstorming. But I get a lot of like different perspectives and ideas and approaches on how I can look at like how I'm running my business. And then it's a great forum to obtain and leverage knowledge. And that is key. So I love quotes, in case you guys haven't noticed. So I love to tell the story with if you have an apple and I have an apple, we exchange these apples, then you and I will each still only have an apple. But if I have an idea and you have an idea, and we exchange the ideas, then we each have two ideas. And that's what I call like synergy, because it then becomes exponential. It's bigger than the two of us together. So that, and that's the beauty of leveraging the knowledge that you have with one another in a mastermind. So the formats of masterminds, and this is, I always go with Napoleon Hill, because there are different, when I hear the word mastermind, people interchange mastermind with masterclass. So I stick with Napoleon Hill's definition of it. It's where two or more people actively engage in the pursuit of a definite purpose with a positive mental attitude constitute an unbeatable force. And if you have been part of a true mastermind, it is amazing, and it's very powerful on how quickly and you can grow your business exponentially. So if you want to go fast, then you go alone. But if you want to go far, that's when you go together. And that, I mean, to me, I feel like when you are masterminding with others, I can't express enough on how good it feels to be with someone that has more knowledge than you. So I've even said, and I'm an advocate of, they talk about the 5 people that you should have in your tribe, and you are those 5 people. But I always say, I prefer to be the dumbest one. Gary Vaynerchuk talks about this. And when he said it, I was like, that is like just beautiful, because I would rather be the dumbest one, because then I'm always learning and I can always figure out things that I can do differently and how I can get my business to go that much faster. So next, we're going to talk about, what it looks like in a mastermind and how to maximize it. I always, when I host my masterminds, I talk about being fully present. That means turning your phones off and giving your all, because it's not just about receiving, it's also about giving your knowledge. And that's when you really start to see the benefit of it, because you're also building relationships on that know, like, and trust. I feel like it's said so much about the know, like, and trust, but when you intentionally do that, that's a different breed of animal. Be kind and considerate and play full out, because at the end of the day, we only have a few minutes to make an impression on someone. And you can give constructive feedback and criticism without being, unkind. So I always make sure that at least part of my mastermind, I always tell them, you be kind, be considerate, give your all, engage in conversation, take notes, and keep an open mind. A lot of people come in that I found, and we help them with massaging this idea. And it's, oh, well, I've done that already. Okay. At the end of the day, I'm just going to be a little blunt, then don't come back. Because I really feel like we need to be open to suggestions, because we may have done something a certain way, but if we look at how it can be done differently and still do the same thing, you'd be surprised by making one little tweak of how all of a sudden it's just like the aha moment has just happened. And then I always tell them to mute themselves if it's noisy, and everything is confidential. I actually make everyone sign an NDA, because I want it to be a safe environment, a safe space for people to speak.
Sharon, let me jump in for a second if I can.
Sure.
The thing that, can you go back one slide? Because here's what I think is really interesting is a mastermind is a tool, but it's only used as good as it can be if you show up in the right way in which to use it. All of the things that you've listed here, when you give to a mastermind and you really perform all of these behaviors you have on the list, that's when things grow exponentially. And I'm sure you've had experiences of great team members and masterminds and the takers that show up and they just want to take away from the session. Can you comment on that?
So I had one young lady, it was so funny because we had a great conversation, because a lot of times I invite people to come as a guest, because it has to be a win-win for both. So I invited this one young lady to come, and really nice lady. She shows up and she was a nail tech, but she wanted to get out of the industry because she was also a 3-time cancer survivor, of which the last 2 times it was caused by the powders that she had inhaled. She wanted to be, you know, best-selling author. She had all these plans, a financial planner. She was like the jack of all trades and honestly the ruler of none. She comes to the mastermind and her camera is off and there's no engagement whatsoever. So we eventually have a call, and I wanted to, you know, and I was polite and I asked her, I go, do you mind if I give some feedback? And she's like, oh, sure, go ahead. And I'm like, well, so here's the thing, you know, I don't understand why you weren't present. And she's like, oh, well, I had a client that needed to get her nails done. And that was the only time she could pick. So I explained to her, I go, well, what if you had another client that had that time slot? Would you have given that to her? And she's like, well, I couldn't, because how do I, I can't do 2 people at the same time. I go, so can you set boundaries for yourself? Because at the end of the day, you're showing up and others are seeing that you're not being present. So it's like, it's one of those of where it's like, this is all about building relationships too. And these ladies, the ladies that I have coming they're in it. And so she was not happy with me and basically told me that she felt that I was trying to tell her how to run her business. And I'm like, no, I'm trying to help you set boundaries for your business, because our clients, I'm so sorry, my dog, here's the dogs upstairs. Devo, no, D. I do apologize. But it's Devo. No, I lost my train of thought.
She thought you were criticizing her and you were trying to give her some positive feedback.
Exactly. Yeah. That was the moral of the story.
Sure,
yes.
sure. And that's what she signed up for, is for you to help her. And it turns out that she wasn't one of your people because she didn't want to be helped. I just think it's important to look at this and understand that a mastermind is not almost, but almost as good as what you put into it, because the format is great. And if you show up and give, then great things can come out.
Exactly. So the next part of it is always seek to give first. I always ask, how can I help you? Even when I'm having conversations with people, because at the end of the day, I feel like when you're in a giving spirit, that's when, to me, I feel like the energy you are able to receive even more, and the universe will return the favor. Respect others and yourself. And that was all part of what I was trying to explain to her. Having great boundaries. I always talk about setting boundaries. Be impeccable with your word. I know you guys have heard the 5 agreements, 4 agreements? I forgot how, because I think there's a new book out too. But being humble and grateful. And I said it earlier, taking imperfect, massive action. Just take action. It does not have to be perfect. We get so caught up in having to be perfect, and there's nothing perfect. Be accountable for yourself and others, and then giving trust to get it. So if you want that trust in the group, you have to give it. And that was all part of what I was trying to explain to her as well. So some of the questions that I ask when, I'm looking at, because I'm part of more than one mastermind myself, is, what do I want to accomplish? A lot of times I have ladies come to the group for the first time and they don't know what to expect. So I've started telling them, I'll send out the prerequisite of, hey, these are things you need to think about when you show up. So if you want to get the most out of a mastermind, be prepared with what you show up with. So one of the biggest ones, what is it that you want to accomplish? Are you looking for a resource? Are you looking to 10x your business? Are you looking to figure something out to grow your business exponentially? Or are you having a challenge that you just don't know how to figure out? Come with one major thing that you're experiencing and dealing with. And depending on what the mastermind, how it's set up, whether it's weekly, monthly, daily, come with that in mind, knowing that you need time to implement that. And then, what is my ask? So when you go in there, know what your ask is and what is standing in your way. So the more that you can answer when you go in, so I'll give you an example for mine. When I ask you to come in, I tell you, you got 1 minute to tell us who you are, like a split second to say what you do, because this is not a time to pitch your business. I want to know what you need help with, what you've already done, how what has worked, what has not worked, within 1 minute. And the ladies that do know, they come and they have it, And then there's those that, I have to massage around it to kind of get it out of them. But these are the questions that you want to ask yourself when you're attending. And then what do you deem successful? And what is it that you feel like it would look like if you haven't missed the mark? And then how could you consider the options that you get to, get you closer to your goal? For me, I feel like when you go to a mastermind, you're seeking in every encounter to diagnose. So when you're there, you are planting the seed to figure out how to get basically the plant to grow. If you're not watering it, nurturing it, and giving it the information that it needs, then it won't grow. So that's where with a mastermind, you create the space to serve and support and solve at the same time. And you're also helping others in the process. So when we end our mastermind, or before we begin our mastermind, I always tell them that whether it's challenges or current initiatives, remember that you're key. And for the guys that's on here, you guys better be proud of me because I found all the team players. I figured football out. I don't watch it, but I know it. So it's like, but you are a key and integral part of the puzzle. You are the one who can take the ball and you pick it up and you can run it to the end zone. But guess what? You can't do that without your team because you need your blockers, your tacklers, your linebackers, your linemen, and your wide receivers. And if I missed anybody, I know there's a quarterback in there somewhere too. I forgot him.
We don't need quarterbacks.
Huh?
I'm a Bears fan. We don't need quarterbacks. All right, go ahead. That's the Bears joke. Go ahead.
Okay. So, but it's like you need your tribe, but it's up to you to make it happen. So here's my last quote for you. And that's like, hang out with people who are going places, who support the path that you're on and cheer you on, who are your tribe. If you are serious about upgrading your life, you'll find your people. So with that being said, I want to say thank you for having me. This was fun. If you have questions, definitely let me know.
Well, I'm glad that you gave us the overview of how you look at masterminds and how you deploy them, because they are a great tool for people that choose to engage with them. And it's that next level of partnership, that next level of working together with a group of other people that you're vibing with and you want to grow your businesses together. So this is a part of what you do. So can you tell us about the masterminds that you run, and if someone's interested, how they can learn more?
Oh, and I closed the screen. I'm sorry. So what I do is we meet once a month because I do like to give the ladies time. So gentlemen, I'm really sorry because it is for female entrepreneurs. I see Roger. I'm sorry. But maybe I'll start something for the guys. That way we can have co-ed. But yeah, so we meet once a month, the first Wednesday of every month. And yeah, we meet for 2 hours and it's very to the point. We get, we get in there and we get it done. So, but if you're interested, I can put the information in the chat if that's okay.
Sure, of course.
With reaching out. And I mean, gentlemen, if you do, because I do still do strategy sessions, if there's something that I can help you with, even if it's just, one thing, I'd be more than happy to chat with you. So I can put that information in there and you can schedule a time to chat as well.
And spoiler alert, Sharon's coming to the retreat. And not only is she coming to the retreat, she's also anchoring one of the most critical panels that we're going to have. Friday, it's about connecting. Saturday's about learning. Sunday's about goal setting. And on Sunday morning, we'll have 3 different presenters. And then Sharon is running the goal setting seminar. So can you give us just a sneak preview of what you have in mind as you set goals for 2022? Some of the things you're going to do?
Some of the things I'm going to do, well, the launch of the goal setting program is something that a lot of ladies have been asking because I was running vision board workshops, and that's my zone of genius is goal set. So my past life, I was an event planner. So I did corporate, social, and weddings. So that's where the whole, setting goals comes in, but it's more of a creative way of doing it. I'm not the by the book kind of person because I feel like there's a lot of energy behind when you have a passion to do something, and when you understand why you're doing something, and it's not that whole know your why like Simon Sinek, although I love him, love him. It's know your why in your heart, because you'd be surprised with how much you can manifest from that. I'll tell you guys, my son was telling me he was going to move to Denver, changed his mind, and he kind of told me off and told me he was not going to do it. And I told him I wasn't changing my vision board. And he's like, well, it sounds like a personal problem. And he called me a month later and he humbly said, Mom, we're moving to Denver. But not only that, the picture that I had on my vision board was actually a street he took me to that was not in Denver, it was in Boulder. But that was the picture that I had up. So when I tell you, when you know your why and you know why something needs to happen and how it needs to happen in your life and know how important it is in your life, you can manifest it. You really can. So we do a lot of different things that, that encompass that, but I want to work with the other ladies to find out how I can, mold this around what they have to kind of close it out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a really powerful morning on Sunday morning. And then Sharon's going to lead the actual setting of the goals, and we'll leave the retreat with goals in hand. Sharon Ringier, great to see you, dear. Thank you for coming on today. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so let's turn our attention to a different way to connect with people. And this is kind of new. In fact, it's brand new. Masterminds have been around forever, but this software called Like-Minded is, it's new this year. So let's welcome the founder, Jeremy Foyet. Jeremy, it's great to see you. I'm all excited to learn about Like-Minded, and we have it inside the Idea Collective's program. So members of the Idea Collective can now use it. But if someone isn't familiar with Like-Minded at all, give us the overview. Tell us about it.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you the context. So I've been building community for the last 13 years at a company called Milwaukee. And during that time, what I found is that it's hard to create human connection at an enterprise scale. We can create micro communities and we can create movements and things, but I started to look at all the patterns I saw for the last 13 years of how people connect and why they connect, and got into the analytics and the psychology behind it, bumped into the gentleman who created eHarmony's algorithm, and we started working on a project together around friendship. And so about 8 months of research and studying, is this something, can we even do this? Is it, because it's important to me. We live at a time where we're more isolated and lonely than ever before in human history. 61% of Americans say they're lonely or isolated within the last year. They're 51% before COVID. So COVID isn't the only issue of why people are disconnected and lonely. And so my thought was, how do we look at the patterns to friendship, and can we build an algorithm around it in a software platform? So spent about 8 months researching it, doing A/B testing, doing all these different kind of tests, placebo tests and things like that. And we got to the point where we started matching people, and we were about a 94% compliance, where people started saying extremely likely to meet again. And so what it comes down to is it's an algorithm built on the psychology and neuroscience of why people are friends. So it's looking at patterns of that. And so we built the beta product. We're in beta right now in this kind of early pilot phase. We're testing in some corporations, we're testing in some membership orgs, about to test in some universities for first year students on how to build friendship and connection. We're at this point right now where kind of that, if a tree falls in the woods, does anybody hear a type of analogy? Well, if you don't interact and build relationships with your coworkers, do you really work with them? If you go to school but you don't have the shared experience anymore because it's online, do you really go to school with them? Mm-hmm. And so we're entering this moment of isolation, and we're not really, you even see this stuff you said about Facebook today. I started looking into that. Yeah. But I think about it about Facebook. We've seen a lot of the impacts of what social media can do on people. I'm trying to bring human connection at enterprise scale. So that's kind of about it.
And I think that's interesting. And that's why I reached out to you as soon as I saw the software, because what we're trying to build with the Idea Collective is bringing small business owners together for more than just growing our businesses through transactions. I want to grow those bonds and those personal connections, because it's all about getting through the good days and the bad days. And that happens when you genuinely build relationships, and your software looks like it does that. And you say 94% of the folks are agreeing that they'd like to meet again.
So far.
Well, yeah. And it's fascinating. I guess This is a really dumb question, but why does it work? Yes, AI is smart, but why does it work that these people actually match? What are the things that make it sticky so people want to meet again?
Well, I can't really give you the reason why, but I can tell you that think about it like this. If you break down social groups and why, so how people go to networking events. We did some research at MIT. Over the last 3 years, people using wearable technology will go to networking events and never meet anybody new. and that they connect with you after that conference. And so we go to these events thinking that we connect and we build these ongoing relationships, but it takes about 60 hours to turn an acquaintance into a meaningful relationship. So it's time spent together. So our algorithm is based on two things: instant chemistry, which is personality driven using like Hexaco personality indexing. And then secondary is what are your life stage, what are your future aspirations, and what are your intensity of interests. And I'm going to say intensity of interests, meaning, not your Instagram interests, like what you show people online that you've done once, but like, what are you really passionate about? The difference between someone that says they like camping and someone that has all the gear that goes camping.
Sure.
Like, so that intensity will actually help grow the relationship by either A, getting someone into that interest, or B, having a shared common intensity of interest for longevity speaking. And then, there's stuff within proximity. We like to think with dating apps now that we're like so advanced in the people we meet, we still only date people within about 7 miles of us. The same as we did in the year 1900. So
That's crazy.
there is no like big expansion of how we date people. It's like, who's in our area, who do we know, what do they look like? So friendship has some similarities to that, but not like we will date the opposite in relationships all the time. We don't really do that with friends. Similarities that bring us together doesn't mean they're the same person. It just means there's a lot of compatibility on friendship.
So if you're in the Idea Collective and you haven't taken the like-minded assessment yet, do it, because it takes less than 5 minutes. And once you do, it's going to match you with either a kindred spirit or a growth partner. And can you encapsulate what those two things are so people know what a kindred spirit and a growth partner are?
Yeah, kindred spirit just to us, it means someone that's has a high probability of being a friend or like having instant chemistry. And growth partner would be someone you could be a best friend, but we'll have a deep learning from each other. How you things like that. So we use that in mentorships. We use that for a variety of team building. We haven't really got totally into cohort models of building networks. That's where our next kind of big software build will be, cohort modeling for companies. But yeah, it's the friendship is really about best friends. Growth is like, I have two of my employees are my growth partners. We totally learn, like every weakness I have, every strength of that person. And like, so you kind of learn from them.
Yeah. And it's fascinating to watch because this is what I've observed so far. You mentioned the interest that you show and then the interest that you really have. On multiple occasions when connecting with kindreds that I've matched with, the conversation goes like this: wow, we're kindreds. I kind of felt like we might be. And I didn't know you were so into thing, because they don't talk about thing on their social media. Like, you learn so much about people that you otherwise wouldn't know. It's interesting, the things that we put out to the public and the things that we don't. Are you finding that as you match other people?
Yeah, so everybody knows what Pat's referring to. When we connect people, when we introduce them, they get their feathers. Birds of a feather flock together, and their feathers are their high intensity points of interest based on the assessment. That could be even like new to city. That could be your interest. That could be some kids, that type of stuff. In the next 2 weeks, we'll have archetypes. So what we do when you take the assessment is build out an archetype, and then we model that and try to match them across archetypes. But it'll tell you how to communicate with each other and like how you like to be communicated with. And that's how we'll introduce people. So, what we did, what we tested this, what Pat, to your point, what was really cool was people that we gave feathers to and how to communicate with each other spoke on average of 32 minutes longer than if we didn't give them anything at all. So we know we're basically giving them an icebreaker without the lame game of, without the lame of like, what's your favorite color? You go wear this sticker, you go to, like that kind of stuff. It's like, here, how do we get deeper in conversation than, the first 6 questions are usually whether, or, topics that aren't going to get deeper. This kind of gets deeper than that.
Well, I met someone. So last thing I'll say about it is I went to a launch party for Like-Minded because we were one of the earliest adopters inside the Idea Collective. And it's been really a treat to install the software. And I had a chance to meet a whole bunch of other folks that Jeremy's working with. And I met a woman who I just never would have met otherwise. And we talked for maybe an hour about everything from Las Vegas to music to sports and all the things that I'm totally into, that they're totally into. And it was so magical because we probably would not have spoken otherwise. And that's what was so cool. So it's inside the community. If you're in the group, take the assessment. Jeremy's coming to the retreat, which is going to be great. So if you have a community or you're
I'll be
a part of an
psychoanalyzing
organization,
everybody when I
oh
look
yeah,
at them.
you're gonna be like, oh, Susie, you're Susie. Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's going to be great. So you can chat Jeremy up about it and also learn from him. I mean, this is the guy that built Milwaukee. And if you're around Milwaukee, you know how magical that organization is as well. Jeremy Foyet, thank you so much for letting us use the software. We look forward to seeing you at the retreat, and we'll see you then.
Also, one more thing, that if you guys have any, if you use it, obviously we're brand new. I'm looking for feedback that actually is helpful. Like,
Sure.
you know, this would make the user experience better. You know, obviously we're going to do some rebuilds, but any feedback that is useful would be really appreciated because we're so early.
And it's funny that you bring that up because I have had a steady stream of emails and thoughts of our members just naturally collaborating around what it is. If you're open to it, we could bring you into one of our Idea Slam meetings, which is an hour-long meeting where it doesn't have to be an hour, but people that have gone through the process could get together and give you some feedback. If you or members of your team would be into that, we could set that up.
Yeah, totally. That'd be great. I mean,
Okay.
we keep learning from every customer so far. So
Yeah, we'll do that because it's got a lot of potential and I'm definitely enjoying it. So, all right. So look up Jeremy and say hello to him at the retreat. Jeremy Foyet, thank you for coming on. We appreciate it. Love the software. All right. So a few more things I want to hit on before we get out of here today. The retreat is now just under 5 weeks away. And just under 5 weeks away is the part where I'm like, can time slow down, please? Because we got work to do. But it's getting really exciting. We're starting to build the shows. We're starting to coordinate with our speakers. We're starting to get our swag printed. And we've got this great bonus going on right now. Our new small business owner hoodie is the bonus for someone that hasn't purchased a ticket yet. So if you're thinking about coming to the retreat, if you do it before next Monday, the 11th, you'll pick up this brand new small business owner hoodie. And it's got the Idea Collective Don't Grow It Alone right there on the sleeve. What's so cool about this, I got the samples. And you know those really, really, really awesome sweatshirts that are like super soft and really thin, yet really warm? Like not the heavy, bulky champion ones, like the really nice, soft, good ones. That's it right there. So check out that if you've not picked up your ticket yet. And if you want one of those sweatshirts, we'll have them at the merch tent at the retreat, because you got to have a merch tent. Like, did you even have an event? If you don't have a merch tent, you got to do that. Plus some other stickers and some other things that we're going to have. So we're excited about that. And if you're looking from the outside in and thinking, I'd like to be a part of that Idea Collective community, thanks to our friends at Bank59, they're giving you a free year in the group. If you're not already a member, visit bank59.com/Idea Collective and they will hook you up. Well, today was a full conversation about human connection, about one-on-one deep business connections and a group of advisors through a mastermind organization. Thank you, Sharon, for that. Also, the high-tech matching of the like-minded software, which is now live inside the group. And the other thing I'll say, just in passing, I've been spending a lot of time thinking about where the Idea Collective is and where it's going. And we have our Anybody Can Join Us free membership on Facebook. We've got our premium collaboration community, which many of you are a member of. And in 22, I'm launching my own mastermind program. This is the first time I've said this out loud, so you didn't hear me say this because I'm just kind of under wraps still. But if you're thinking about joining a mastermind program and taking your business to the next level, let's have a conversation because it's going to be really cool. Just got to say. I'm Pat Miller, the Idea Coach, founder of the Idea Collective. Thank you so much for joining us for Small Business Rally Point. We will see you next week.